Welcome everybody. My name is Mika. I'm the project manager of Enrupt. Enrupt, in case you don't know, is an energy innovation company. We are based in Singapore and in Dubai, and we have been doing a lot of programs running related to in the energy sector and programs that are looking at disrupting the way the energy sector is run. So today we are going to be chatting with Katrina and Peter. And later on, I'm going to hand over the floor to Katrina and she'll introduce herself and she will also introduce Peter, who I totally agree with. Katrina once mentioned in a comment is the best pitch coach around, which is absolutely true. We're going to start shortly. And once the chat ends, I'm going to be telling you about our new program called Enrupt Net Zero Lab, which we are planning to launch in April. So please do stay on for that. Yeah. So over to you, Katrina.
Thank you, Mega. And it's great to see everyone who has joined this session. I'm Katarina Uherova-Hazbani, founder of Enrupt and enthusiast for everything that has to do with sustainability, environmental, social, and governance aspects, and net zero or carbon reduction. I work as a consultant, mentor, or advisor for companies of all shapes and sizes. And this session will be specifically dedicated to startups. And I'm happy to have with me Peter Brown. Peter is definitely the best coach that we could have, who helps startups, but also corporate clients to build their own stories. And today, we will talk about building your own story that fits into the agenda of sustainability. Before we start, I would like to put you a little bit on the spot. I would like to call out a few of you from the audience to help us understand your business. I would like to ask a few to make an introduction of you and what your business does to help us to direct a bit more this chat today. So I was thinking, Mohammed, I was quite interested by your business. Maybe you can tell us more.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, I just noticed my microphone was already open. I hope I wasn't making any noises. So anyway, I'm currently actually affiliated with Optimize. Optimize is an ESCO company. It was licensed just last year. So we do the usual stuff. Energy retrofits, energy audits, and the green links consultations, and a few other services. But at the same time, I have this business idea that might help accelerating the UAE reaching the net zero carbon by 50. Still it's very, very early stages. So I saw this event and I registered seeing, hopefully I will get some information that can help me to establish, turn that idea into a proper code.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Stephanie, it's great to see that you are here. Would you be able to tell us a bit more about the business you are involved in?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Katarina. Hi, everyone. So I work for a company called C3, Companies Creating Change. C3 are an accelerator based here in the UAE, and they support impact focused businesses grow their business in the region and wider. And currently I'm working with Dubai Multi-Commodity Center, which is one of the biggest free zones here in Dubai. And we're partnering with them to run a new accelerator, which is just kicking off at the moment. So we're currently open for applications. I'm doing a little plug here as well. So yeah, I'm really keen to see what other startups are out there, particularly in the net zero space, because what I've seen so far on the accelerator programs is actually we don't have that many startups in this area, and I'm really keen to get more onto the programs and into the UAE as well.
Is there anyone else that would like to present themselves?
Hi everyone, Ivan here. I could do a quick intro. So yes, thank you for the event. Great to join for the first time. I think I'm attending one of your Enrupt events. So quick background on Ambient Systems. We are a deep tech startup based in Singapore, and we are developing intelligent decarbonization strategies for global real estate. So through data science innovation, we empower serial leaders to achieve net zero portfolio growth while driving innovation forward. So it's kind of a short two-line pitch. Looking forward to the event. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Ivan, and that's very interesting. So, Peter, where do you think we should start?
Well, I guess I'll start with a quick introduction of myself, just so that people have a little bit of understanding of why is this guy here. So I have a long connection to Katarina. Pardon me. I met Katarina in Singapore around 2015, I think it was. It's quite a few many years ago now, and have worked on a number of Enrupt's programs, particularly with Shell Idea Refinery in Singapore, where Enrupt was engaged as the program manager for energy startups to work with the Shell organization, and that was a fantastic opportunity for me to learn a lot about energy startups as well. And I guess, my background as a pitch coach is I come firstly from the entertainment industry, so I have an understanding of how to use your body and your voice as a communication tool, but also how to bring drama to your story and how to bring engagement with your audience to your story, which is heavily going to be based on your content, but then you as the messenger, if you like, are the person who brings that content to life and makes it relevant for your audience. So, that's one part of my background. Then the other part of my background is helping businesses communicate with their internal and external audiences, which I did for around 20 years, principally in the finance industry, both in Australia and in Singapore. And it was while I was in Singapore that I met Katarina at a time when I was transitioning towards helping startup founders pitch their business ideas to investors, which I've been doing now for the last 7 or 8 years. And yeah, I think that's about right in terms of time. And it's a process that I really love because it allows me to share my thoughts about communication and to share my thoughts about communicating business content specifically. So that's why I'm here today, why I've been invited here to extend that discussion with you guys, particularly in terms of you guys being able to connect with your audiences. So in terms of the response to your question earlier, Katarina, how should we start? Why don't we just start with why this event is important right now? Why is it relevant for startups to be thinking about this particular angle at the moment?
Yeah, definitely these past 2.5 years have been very fluid in terms of how the economic and political situation of our countries and globally is evolving. And in this situation, sustainability and the role that sustainability plays in everyone's business has changed. And it is the improvement in the right direction. We are now considering sustainability more seriously. Because we are looking at new ways how to define value. Traditionally in business, and of course we always do that and we still do that, we consider the monetary value of our businesses. But we see a different way of thinking these days. We see a way of considering how business creates value for its stakeholders at large, be their clients, suppliers, be they the people in the physical proximity of the business, how companies affect the physical environment they are in. You know, are they polluting? Are they preserving the environment? And of course, we have also seen over the past decade creation of a new environment, the digital environment, right? So in this complexity of, you know, how businesses impact their these different types of, we call them environments, sustainability has gained in importance because it's a way how we can measure and evaluate whether a specific business or a company is creating a situation where it enables growth in a way that preserves resources, even co-creates new resources instead of destroying value. And startups, of course, can plug into this ecosystem and find a new way how to increase the probability of success. You might say, oh, COVID helped partially, maybe it didn't help because many startups suffered economically. You can also say that the current conflict between Ukraine and Russia is not helping, but actually it's creating even better situations to pitch in the topic of sustainability, because it's creating a situation of scarcity. It's creating a situation of very high energy prices, which make sustainability a better business case. So what I think is that startups, they always are great at seizing the day, at seizing the opportunity. So they should seize this opportunity of sustainability and increase their probability of success by pitching themselves as a startup that contributes to the sustainability agenda. But Peter, I'm always thinking, and that's true even for my business or businesses that I'm advising, I'm always thinking, how can you build your story when everything is changing, when literally the ground under your feet is moving, right? So that's my question to you. How can we build this sustainability story for our businesses in these times?
I think, thanks for the question, Katarina. I think the fundamental answer to that question is relevance. And that is that when things are changing and you're proposing a solution or an innovation, what is the relevance of the change to your innovation, or what is the relevance of your innovation to the change? And so in a sense, you're bringing today's circumstance, an immediate circumstance, into the proposition that you're positioning for your audience. And so then, you know, the other thing that is absolutely crucial to take in is who is your audience? Who are you talking to, and what is relevant to them? Are they an audience of investors who are trying to get your understanding of the relevance of your value proposition in the context of the changing situation? It may be an audience of partners or distribution partners or manufacturing partners, for example. So they'll be looking at the same sort of idea. How is what you're proposing relevant given the changing circumstance? So, you know, part of the story is that whatever you're telling has a real-time significance, so that there is a real connection to what is happening today with your proposition to the circumstances that are changing around us, and the acknowledgement that for your particular audience, what is happening around us is happening to them too. And so they're always looking for, how does this affect me? What's in it for me? Your audience is always going to be coming from a personal perspective. They're going to be coming from, you know, their own selfish viewpoint, if you like how does this investment opportunity create an opportunity within my portfolio, or how does this manufacturing or distribution possibility, how does it fit within my portfolio? Or if I'm a customer, how relevant is this to me given the new governance circumstance that I have to adhere to? So I think, you know, the primary answer is relevance. Make sure that your story has resonant relevance to your customer and to the circumstances of today. So I would, you know, want to think, you know, what do you think in terms of startups positioning their business model in terms of you know, sustainability? You know, the way that I deal with customers is really with pitching founders is, how is your story landing with your audience? How are the elements of your story being communicated? But in terms of that business model element of a startup story, Katarina, how do you think that should be positioned to show sustainability?
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Peter. And before I responded, I just wanted to mention maybe one example that we see today in the EU, but we will see it also in other geographies with the increasing prices of energy, and also with the desire to achieve a higher security of energy supply. Energy efficiency, startups that work in energy efficiency, and Mohammed on the call earlier mentioned that he has a solution for energy efficiency. Startups that provide energy efficiency solutions today are contributing to the security of supply. It's a new way for them to position themselves, right? They are not just about saving energy, saving costs, but in this new changing agenda, they are improving the situation of energy security. So that's just one example how startups can make themselves relevant. And along with energy security, of course, they contribute to better optimization of the business's resources, right? Because the money that would normally be spent on electricity bills, it can be spent on business growth and maybe acquisition of new customers and so on. So I wanted to mention that as one example to confirm what you've just said. Now, when thinking about how startups can position themselves in the sustainability agenda, I like to take things at large, right? I think many times startups, for a good reason, they are very busy by building their business, right? They don't have time really to reflect on things sort of that are out of the box. So I often recommend them to look at things three ways. And before I start explaining, I will just say I will be referring to sustainable development goals. These goals were set back in 2014 by United Nations as a way to encourage sustainable growth. And the goals are defined in 17 different areas and cover things like energy, water, but also gender equality and so on. So startups or any businesses can use this as a useful canvas to evaluate themselves against. So the first way how startups can define where they sit in the sustainability agenda is just to take the sustainable development goals and see whether their solution fits in one of the boxes, right? So there is a goal that is dedicated to universal energy access, for example. So startups that work on any solutions that encourage that goal, are startups that directly contribute to the sustainability agenda via their product or solution. There are other technologies that can do that, waste management, water treatment solutions, and so on. So that's the first way, directly contributing to sustainability via your product or solution. The second one is supporting sustainability indirectly, which can be done in many different ways, in helping businesses to manage people, manage finances, manage their digital systems. Even a startup that has a data management solution, by offering that solution, by making sure that businesses operate in a more productive way, they are contributing to sustainable growth, right? So they can build a story of their own business around that idea, and with the help of coaches like yourself, right, they can find a way how to plug themselves into the sustainability ecosystem. And finally, if all these two options fail, any startup still has an opportunity to implement sustainability within their own business, within the way they run their business. They can get certification, for example, as a certification which is called B Corp, that has very specific guidelines on how as a business can declare themselves to be a business that looks at sustainability and wider impacts on the environment around them. There are, of course, other ways how to do that, but roughly, just to summarize, either you have a product solution that directly contributes to one of the sustainability goals, you have a product or solutions that indirectly helps businesses to operate in a more sustainable way. And the third way is you can just take your business and implement sustainability within your own operations, within your own business. So I'm just wondering, I'm giving this as some sort of framework, but if the startups that are participating here, if they take one of these points and they want to translate it into their own story to tell, how should they go about it, right? What are the building blocks of the work they will need to do? Maybe you can tell us at least briefly. I know this is a very ongoing and continuous work, but you can give us some hints on how to go about it.
Well, I think that, whether you're talking to an investor or whether you're talking to a potential customer, or whether you're even talking to a potential hire, somebody that you're looking to bring into your business, it's really about the story that you are going to excite your audience with is going back to what I said earlier, what's in it for them. And so what's in it for them is going to, probably center around what is called value creation. And so how do you then quantify or identify what is value creation? So for example, if you're pitching your business to a rock star employee and you're giving them the opportunity to participate in incredible value creation, you may not be able to satisfy their salary requirements, but you may be able to satisfy their opportunity to really contribute to value creation in a sustainability world that they may be looking for example. Again, if it's a simple manufacturer or distribution partner, how does your proposition influence their business or their portfolio in terms of the opportunity for value creation? And then when we go to the investor, again, what are investors are basically looking for the opportunity to give you money so that they give you back more money. And then how does then your sustainability proposition create the necessary quantity of value for the investor to be interested in? And just this morning, we had a series of 10 startups in Australia in the rural and agriculture space, pitching their business to a panel of, funnily enough, but two of the panel both came from 20-30 years in the corporate sector in Asia, in finance and in agriculture. And also, as they graduated further up the corporate ladder, they became involved in the investment space, whether it's coming from a corporate finance, applying investment funds for the benefit of existing businesses, or whether it was in the agriculture space, actually, funding businesses that were coming up. And so both these investors' comments to these startup agriculture businesses in Australia was we need as investors to understand the potential of this idea. And so that potential needs to be underpinned by a business plan. And that business plan is going to be around how do we satisfy demand? How do we attract customers? What is our commercial arrangements? When we multiply the business model by the market opportunity, then we see the potential of this opportunity. And for startups, and this was such a constant message in their feedback to the startups this morning, you need to be bold. You need to have large, ambitious plans and be able to articulate that and be able to substantiate that. Because that's the investment, that's the opportunity that the investors are looking for. They're looking for outlying or outstanding value creation. So you need to be able to articulate that. Now that's regardless of the type of business it is. So today we're talking about in the energy sector and in sustainability. So within that lens of energy and sustainability, how are you creating value? And what is the market opportunity, particularly when you're talking to investors? So I think you need to really focus on the value creation aspect. In addition, and I think a lot of founders get heavily involved in and necessarily in love with their solution. And so their pitch can be, this is my solution and it's fantastic and it's wonderful and it's going to be fantastic. But what is going to be the impact of that solution on the community? And then what is going to be the commercial impact of that solution on the community, and whether that community is an investor community or is it a business partner community, or if it's a customer, if you're selling a B2B solution to a customer, how is your solution going to create value for that customer? So we need to, yes, focus on the wonder of our solution, but then we need to switch to how that solution creates value for your audience. Have I answered the question that you asked me significantly? I hope so.
I'm not sure anymore, but you've answered something even more important, right? You started to talk about investors. You know,
I think it sort of begs another question, you know, like what sort of themes, you know, if we're talking about value creation, if we're talking about the impact of sustainability on communities and on customers and on other businesses, you know, what are the technologies that you're seeing in the people you're interacting with, and what are the major themes that you're seeing? And I guess in a sense, what we're looking at here is, you know, the customer, the people who are looking for startup solutions, the people who have the problems. And, you know, just quickly going back to something you mentioned earlier about the value of the startup in this relationship. Traditionally, corporates, because of their size, are slow moving, and startups are nimble and agile. And it's such a great benefit that startups can bring to corporates. They can quickly develop a solution that would have to go through so many hoops and so much red tape to even get started within a corporation, and yet a startup can achieve it quickly. And so once a startup achieves that quick and nimble solution, it can be acquired or adopted by a large big business. So what are the technologies and themes that you're seeing coming out of the businesses who have these appetites to satisfy SDG goals, for example?
Yeah. No, thank you for the question, and I'll answer it. And then I was thinking, Peter, I know that you need to leave in about 15 minutes. I'll ask everyone in the audience to prepare their questions if they would like to ask you anything. So, you know, and I've been thinking about it this morning. I've been, and I won't hide, I've been working already for 20 years. During that time, working especially in the energy field, right, we have witnessed, and I know a few people here have worked in the same field, we have witnessed really like a roller coaster of energy prices, right? I mean, I remember back in, actually around the time when Russia for the first time cut the gas supplies to Ukraine in 2006, right? Like we've witnessed, you know, skyrocketing of oil prices at, you know, $120 per barrel. And we, you know, were faced suddenly with a future with super high energy prices. Then just a few years back with very low levelized cost of electricity coming from solar PV, we thought, okay, we are going into the future when energy will be almost free, right? These are like completely different situations that we've been considering. And now again, we are entering an environment where energy is not only very expensive, but is scarce, right? I mean, depending where companies and the clients sit, where they have their operations, they might be paying twice, 4 times more for the same amount of energy they were buying just few months back. So, you know, what are the technologies that are relevant in this environment? I think are those that help businesses to do few things. Definitely those that optimize or reduce usage of resources. And this is any type of resources. It can be energy, it can be water, it can be just, you know, basically optimization and more efficient processes, manufacturing processes, industrial processes. I think we are entering a future where this will be one of the most important drivers of a successful business. Then startups that have solutions that help companies to manage risks. You know, we are entering a decade and possibly decades of uncertainty stemming from many different political and economic changes. So startups that help companies to assess and address different points of risk. And, you know, looking at sustainability, you can think of sustainability as a way to manage risk in many areas. Climate change, people, you know, just mentioning few of the things, but you can take each of the sustainability development goals and transform it into a form of risk, right? So startups that have solutions that can manage risks will be those that are relevant. And finally, maybe I can mention just few technologies, right? And usually when we look at sustainability, I'll give you examples from energy because Enrupt works primarily in that area. You know, in energy sector with our transition to sustainability and net zero, we are thinking of 2 types of technologies, those that are mature and ready for large scale deployment today, and those that are more like a moonshot opportunities. So those that are relevant for deployment today, you know, we've discussed them and I've mentioned them. It's energy efficiency, renewable energy, electric mobility, it's energy storage, you know, and you know, the things that we are already doing, but we are not doing enough of them. So that's very, very brief response to your question, which deserves, I think, another online session. But what I would like to do, Peter, now, do you have any comments that you would like to mention, or should we open it to startups for questions?
No, I think I think I'm happy to go to questions, and I can see that Ivan's already contributed a question in the chat. Okay. Which is, I'll just read it out for those of you who don't have your chat turned on. Peter, could you share advice on learning value drivers for customers in the early stages of the startup? And look, it's a simple question, and it is highly relevant, and it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier, is that, you know, the founder is generally, and rightfully so, obsessed with their solution at the beginning. And whether it's a small team of founders or whether it's a single founder, they're rightfully focused on developing their solution, but the solution is for the customer. And so again, going back to this morning, we had one example of a startup that is coming out of academia, coming out of a university, coming out of research, and their pitch was highly conceptual. And one of the comments from a very experienced professional in the agriculture space in Australia was, "Your pitch is not connected to the real world." It is an idea, and it is a heavily formed idea, but you have not engaged with the customer. And until you engage with the customer, you won't be taken seriously in the corporate world. And so I think the answer, Ivan, is that can I share advice on learning value drivers for customers? You learn that from your customers. And so, you know, who are your customers? How are you creating value from them? And then go and test it with them. Go and find out the nature of the problems that they're experiencing. Find out the solutions that they're using. Find out why those solutions are ineffective. Find out the cost of those solutions, because they may have an ineffective, inefficient solution that they're using already that costs them $100. And then you're coming with a much more efficient, much more focused solution that costs them $1,000. And then they're going to say, well, we'll stick with the $100 solution. So we really need to know about our customer, about the nature of the issues that they're facing, so that the value creation that we're providing matches their needs. And you learn that from the customer. And so I think it's vitally important that you have this strong customer engagement from the get-go. And that's why you'll have people like Dave McClure from 500 Startups. Get out of the building, get away from your screen, get away from your thesis, get away from your research, and go and talk to customers. Go and prove the concept that you have with customers. Get involved in trials, do whatever you can to understand the needs of the customer. So that's my answer to the first question from Ivan that I've seen posed here, and I'm sure there are others that have been contributed.
Yes, there is another one, and thank you for that, Peter. There is another one, I'll read it out. It's from Ashari, who is saying, we are developing a nature-based plant for fuel and biodiesel in Indonesia. So I found that interesting. I know you well, you know Indonesia well. We need advice on scalability and funding. Do you have some suggestions based on your experience with accelerators there?
Well, I have been involved with Indonesian startup ecosystem since 2016, I think, and have participated in a number of different accelerator programs and government-backed programs. And Indonesia is fantastic because of its digital transformation mandate that is being driven from the government into the community and propagated throughout the community. So I think, you know, in terms of funding and scalability for a nature-based plant for fuel and biodiesel, I think, again, you know, how does this, I mean, the idea is great. You know, we're sort of having this, you know, this discussion for the past 20 years, are we at peak fuel, and how is, you know, fossil fuels destroying the environment, and therefore a nature-based plant for fuel and is an engaging proposition. And so then that is something to think about, and we've got to get away from the thinking about it. We've got to get it into the actuality. And so that's where your proof of concept exercises are giving evidence that your fossil fuel alternative has value, has the possibility of creating value for the potential customers. So, and as I mentioned, in Indonesia, you've got fantastic government support for entrepreneurial and innovative initiatives. And so I would think that, you know, engaging with the government departments is a really great way to start, because somehow you need to make a proof case that you can then take to market. And so that when you have the opportunity, when you're looking for the opportunity to scale, and you're looking for the opportunity to attract funding, both of those exercises are going to be fueled by evidence. And so the evidence is that your plant-based fuel solution is effective, that it works. And so what are the circumstances that it works? Can your plant-based fuel alternatives simply be poured into the existing petrol tanks of cars, or does the car need a new petrol tank and a new engine? In which case, then how do you propagate your solution if there is no way for it to be used in an existing vehicle? So that means a complete business transformation. So, you know, when we're talking about scalability, scalability is something that's growing quickly, and funding is going to be given to business initiatives that have demonstrated revenue generating possibility. And so that's what we need to prove. We need to prove that our alternative will work in the market or is working in the market. And when we have that basis of proof, then we can go and approach the investors and say, we have this basis of proof, it is effective. With funding, we can grow it quickly and scale quickly. And the investors are always going to be looking for those opportunities, but they're also going to be looking for evidence. And evidence is absolutely crucial.
Thank you, Peter.
No worries. I just looked at the clock. I have 1 more minute.
So what is the last words of wisdom then?
Oh, look, I think that for founders and for entrepreneurs, you need to be bold. If you're looking for investment, you really need to show the investor that there is potential for high returns, and don't be shy of that. If you're going to be very conservative in your estimates, there is a potential for developing a conservative solution, but investors are looking for things that are going to move the dial, things that are going to change dramatically, because that's where the investment potential or the revenue potential comes from. So I think, you know, be bold and really base your work on evidence. And in the very, very early stages, it's really about gathering evidence. And then that evidence gathering, whether that's that customers have this problem, or customers will pay for this problem, or customers are testing our solution, or customers are paying for our solution, it's always going to be about the relationship between your solution and the customers who use it. That's where the value comes from. And so that's the evidence you should be stimulating.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this. And I know you have to go, so I wish you a good end of the day, and literally end of the day. Peter is in Australia. We are here bridging a few time zones. So have a great weekend, Peter. Enjoy.
No worries. I've got 2 hours with fintech startups in Singapore now. So
okay. Amazing.
Best wishes for everybody, and you're in good hands.
Thank you, Peter. And one of the questions that we've received in preparation for this session was actually, how can startups access investors that are specifically interested in the topic of sustainability? And, you know, it's not a surprise. We've been increasingly approached by both startups and investors that are looking for startups that work in sustainability, net zero, ESG decarbonization. And that's how actually as Enrupt, we were thinking of what would be a better way, you know, just creating a bridge and on a systematic basis, run sessions such as this one, which gives you a practical advice on how to do it, but also helps us to build a community. And that's where the idea of our Enrupt Net Zero Lab came from. So what I would like to do now is for Mega to give you a short, concise brief. We are coming to the end of the session, so we'll try to keep it short. And just to give you an idea, you know, what is it about and how you can get involved. At the end of that program, we are creating a panel of investors that are specifically looking at solutions in the field of sustainability. So Mega, why don't you give us a bit of information on that before we wrap up?
Sure. So I'm just going to share my screen. Give me one moment. Yes. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So as Katrina and Peter have both spoken about, our focus really right now is in the areas of decarbonization, sustainability, and net zero. And so the program that we have put together is meant for early to mid-stage startups in this space. Let me just move forward in the slide. So if you see on your screen right now, we are looking for early to mid-stage startups. This is, of course, our pilot program, our first cohort. So we are planning to run this for 3 months initially. And then there is if you see on your screen, there is a framework of sectors that is given. But of course, if there is a startup who is not fitting within this criteria, but fits into the larger story of decarbonization and net zero, we will definitely consider them too. In terms of like other criteria for the startups to join the program, we are looking for startups who are, they have operations either in the Middle East or in Southeast Asia, where we have in Singapore and Dubai, as I mentioned, are where we have 2 offices. And then we are also looking for startups. So ideally, they should have a product ready for commercialization. But again, I mean, I wouldn't say that if you are a startup which doesn't fit, you are still at the initial stages, your product is not yet ready, I would still suggest that you apply, because again, we will curate the startups, and if it's like really interesting, we will definitely consider you. And the other eligibility criteria are given here. And don't worry about noting all of this down, because I'm going to be sending a follow-up email early next week, which will have all these details again for your reference, so that you know you exactly have everything on hand with you. And so the program that we have designed is a high value program, but at the same time, it's a light touch program. So what you will first get is a session with Katrina, who will first understand your business and give advice in terms of your business model and your pitch deck. We also plan a second session with a special guest who will speak to you more from the client point of view. So if that person is like a potential customer, then they will give you advice from the angle of business development in that sense. And then finally, we will arrange a pitch session with at least 3 investors in your space whose thesis matches with you. And the idea is, again, that you will get feedback from these investors, and hopefully if they like your business and are interested, then you can take your conversation forward with them. Now, for the initial cohort, we do have a small admin fee of 99 USD per startup. And that's mainly just to cover our admin costs, and also a little bit to ensure that there is some level of commitment from the startups. I think that's pretty much the broad guidelines of the program, the overview. This is the team that, the core team that will be running the program. You've met me and Katrina. My colleague Kashmira kind of manages marketing and communication. And one of the key benefits, as I didn't mention but is listed, is that you will also be featured in our network. So we have a huge database of startups and investors, mentors, and program partners. And through our LinkedIn, through our newsletter, through our Facebook, you will be featured in that network as well. So that's something Kashmira will help with. So I think just before I hand over to Katrina to kind of just add in any other elements, the next steps from my side will be that I will be in touch with you next week with a follow-up email, and I will share all these details with you, and also the sign-up form on which you can register your interest, and we will collect some information from you. And then should you get shortlisted for the program, then I will be in touch again for more details. Katrina, I hope I haven't missed out anything.
Thank you, Megha. Maybe you can mention how the startups can subscribe. We will be sending a link, I believe,
yes,
where they can do so.
Yes. So my email will include a link to subscribe to our newsletter as well, along with the link to sign up. Yeah.
And Ivan is asking if we can share the timeline for the program. So maybe you can explain what will be the length when we start and so on, and also the the repetition, right? Because it's not just one-off program, we will be running it regularly.
Right. So, our program is, we are hoping to start in April, and then it will run 3 months from there. We are, as I said, this is a first cohort. We will start curating startups. So maybe initially it may take a bit more time. That's why we right now given a broad timeline of April 2022. And then this is a first cohort. Moving forward in the second half of the year, we are looking to add more offerings into the program and make it a more in-depth program, whether it would be having more mentoring sessions, maybe having pitch coaching sessions, maybe having like pitch deck preparation sessions. For the upcoming cohorts, we will also bring in more formal partners to join our program. So this is like, this is not just a 3-month engagement. This is like a long-term thing. And of course, once you are part of the program, you will also get access to a post-program community. So you will get added to a network of entrepreneurs who've taken part in the program. We will continue to organize free community events like we have done just now, and develop that community, not just, and across regions, So it will be Singapore, Dubai, the Middle East, as well as Southeast Asia.
Yeah, so if the program starts in April, we would be anticipating that the mentoring sessions would take place in April, May, and then the investor pitch would take place around June, just to give you time to adapt the content of your pitch based on the feedback that you receive from the mentors. Excellent. So I think we are coming to almost the close of the session. We probably can take at least one more question if anyone is interested. For those that need to go, I want to thank you for your participation. What we are doing here is building an ecosystem that matters to us personally. We are keen to connect with people that share with us the same values, the values of building a future that is better than what we have done so far, based on principles of sustainability and our net zero goals. So I encourage you to reach out, share the information. We are happy to connect one-on-one and brief you about what we have coming up. I'll stop there and ask if there are any questions right now.
So Katrina, there is a question from Ashari. Must we have an office in Singapore or UAE? So even though Ashari, I think you shared about your business and we talked a bit. So I think it sounds quite interesting. So I would suggest that you do apply. So, and the form will have like more detailed questions about your business so that we can definitely have a look at it and consider it. I mean, we had to give a criteria at the start of the program, but like I said, we are flexible. Depending on the business that comes in.
Yeah, I also would encourage applications because we will run several editions of the program. So even if you don't make the cut for the first one, you could join the second one and so on.
Sure, no problem, Ashari. Any other questions from anyone? And if you want to unmute yourself, feel free to do so as well.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this lovely session. So basically, maybe my question is, I wouldn't say it's off topic, but I'm still in a very, very early stages. And one of the things I have to do, one of the questions I have to get answers for. I have a lot of questions, like in terms of legal stuff and even strategy stuff, and I don't know if you can give any advices or maybe like name any let's say legal offices or any strategy advisors that can help, especially in Dubai.
Yeah. Yes. Why don't you share with us your questions by email? And we will be able to look into that either in writing or we can get on a call together. No problem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think this is it. Early start of the day or a nice lunchtime session, depending
Right.
where you are.
Right. And great timing. I mean, we've ended with 2 minutes to spare. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend and take care.